and welcome to day number 54. Great afternoon, class. It's Mr. Sargent here with your day 54 recap video for ELA and for science. Now, in ELA today, we once again focused on text features. Now, the three text features that we're going to focus on are bold words, subheadings, and captions. And we're going to read a story about sod houses today, which may not sound like the most exciting thing in the world, but they're actually pretty cool. After that, we're going to teach a quick lesson on prefixes, and we're going to focus on three prefixes in particular. All right, we're going to focus on the prefixes un, dis, and re. And each day we're going to pick up a little bit more with prefixes. In science today, we're going to learn about structures and how we could improve these structures. So stay tuned. So in ELA, the text features that we're talking about are the subheadings, the bolded words, and the captions for the pictures. Now, if we take a look at the screen behind me, you'll notice that this is part of the story that we're going to read shortly. All right. Now, if we look right here, you will see these are the subheadings. Now, these will tell you what the text is going to be about. Now, it's a lot like a title of the story. Now, the title of this story is called Sod Houses, so we know what we're reading about is going to be sod houses. But in this section of the story, the subheading tells us what we're about to read about. Now, if you look here, this subheading talks to us about why people build sod houses. Now, also in this paragraph, you'll see the word prairie, and it looks a little different than the other words. If you notice, it's a little bit darker and a little bit thicker than the normal words. Well, ladies and gentlemen, these are bold words. Now, whenever we see a bold word, we need to remember that these are vocabulary words. These are important words in the story that will help us understand a little bit better. And if you look around it, you'll find the context clues to find out what it means. And the third text feature that we're focusing on this week, captions. Now, I love captions for pictures because much like the story yesterday about the igloo, we need to be able to look at the picture and understand what it means. Well, captions help us with that. If you take a look at this picture and then you look underneath it, this isn't just, a family and a cow that's on the top of a roof. This is, well, bet you didn't notice the cow there, did you? What this says underneath is a family and their sod house in Nebraska. So with a better understanding of the picture, we're able to understand the story even better. So let's go ahead and read the story now. Sod Houses by Henry Wallace. Have you ever heard of a sod house? Sod is a layer of dirt. It has grass growing on it. Long ago, pioneers used sod to build houses all across the American prairie. Now, there's our first subheading, why people built sod houses. The prairie, there's the bolded word, the prairie looked like a sea of grass. There were not many trees that pioneers could use to build houses, so they cut bricks out of sod instead. Building a sod house, and here's our second subheading. Making sod bricks was not easy. The roots from the prairie grasses were tough. They were hard to cut through. Pioneers stacked up sod bricks while the roots were still growing. After a while, the bricks would grow together to make a strong wall. The sod houses kept pioneers cool in the summer and warm in the winter. They also protected them from storms. And as we also know from the video, they weren't alone, were they? There were some critters that also like sod houses, like insects, mice, and snakes. So after reading this, we learn a little bit more about how to build a sod house and why people build a sod house. All right. Now, after we read the story, we completed a chart in class. And if you didn't finish it in class, feel free to get on Google Classroom to find this chart. Now, if we take a look at this, well, it breaks it down by text features, the purpose or the meaning of it, and an example from the story. So behind me, you'll see a completed chart. Feel free to copy it down. Feel free to find your own answers as well by going back into the story. But if we look, The first one we have is bold words. And as we talked about earlier, anything that's in bold is a vocabulary word. And a great example of that is prairie. The next text feature was subheading. And we have an example already there for us, don't we? And it tells about the topic of the text that comes after it. Now, with this, it's pretty much just like a second title, where whatever we're going to read after the subheading, well, it's going to have something to do with the subheading. All right? And an example of this is why people built sod houses. And if you remember from our story, that was one of those subheadings that we talked about. And finally, we have captions. Now, what captions do, if you could see right here, it tells us about the pictures. Now, an example of that was, well, there was only one picture with only one caption, and it is a family and their sod house in Nebraska. I think it should have mentioned the cow as well. All right, so hopefully you understand text features a little bit better. We're going to continue practicing with this throughout this week. And now on to prefixes. Now, if you don't know what a prefix is, it is a group of 2 or maybe 3 letters that can entirely change the meaning of a word. They are probably the most powerful letters and parts of a word that we can even imagine. All right? They can change someone's emotion from being happy to unhappy, from being honest to dishonest. All right? They are so powerful. So, before we get into the 3 prefixes that we focused on in class today, let's talk a little bit more just about prefixes. Now, all words start with a root word. Say, for instance, the word happy. Okay? Happy is a great word. I enjoy being happy, and hopefully you enjoy being happy too. But the minute that I put a prefix next to it, we'll say the prefix un, it changes the meaning completely. Now, originally, happy means joyful, it means smiling, it means butterflies and unicorns. Well, or whatever makes you happy. Zebra cakes, definitely. Now I'm distracted. No, but the minute we add the prefix un, now just 2 little letters, and we add that to happy, look what happens. Boom. Yeah, right? We just changed something that was happy to unhappy. Now, unhappy means the direct opposite of that. And that is the power of prefixes. So let's focus a little bit more on the 3 prefixes that we're going to be talking about today. Now, as we just mentioned in unhappy, we have the prefix un, which means not. All right? So anything that you use the word or the prefix un for, and you add it to your root word, it's going to be not that thing. So, for instance, when you tie your shoe, well, what's the opposite of that? Well, it's untie, which means it's not tied. All right? What if we have something that's usual, something you see every day? We add an un to it, and that becomes unusual. Absolutely. All right? So just by adding the un, it twists it to the total opposite of what the word means. And a lot like that, we have the prefix dis. Okay? Once again, dis means not. It is not something. So if I am talking about being pleased, being happy, the word pleased, if you add a dis in front of it, it's going to be displeased, which means that does not make me happy. All right? How about when you obey? Well, if you add dis in front of it, that means you don't obey. So it's disobey. All right? So it's the power of the prefix. And finally, they're not all negative. They all don't say, not or against. We have the prefix re. Now, with re, it means to do again. So when I ask you to watch this video once and you don't get all the information, well, what are you going to do? You're right. You're going to re-watch it. All right? If I ask you to do your homework over again, you're going to rewrite it. All right? So the prefix re just means to do again. So your homework tonight you can find on Google Classroom. It's an easy page dealing with re, un, and dis. Good luck. I look forward to seeing your answers. In science today, we learned about structure. Now, structure is how something is built. Now, over the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about materials. We've been talking about natural versus synthetic. Today, we started our lessons on structure, and this is exactly how something is built. Now, this week, you already built your houses, and you did a phenomenal job. But when we're building larger things and building larger houses, well, they need more than just one material, don't they? They need something called a structure. Well, you need a structure too. If you know it or not, your bones and your skeleton is your structure. It gives you shape. So this week, we'll be doing an experiment on Friday.
I'll be back.
We're not talking about Dr. Doubt yet. We're going to be doing an experiment on Friday in which we build a structure to a skyscraper. All right. So we're going to be looking at the different things, whether it's environment or whether it is how flat something is, or even the materials that we use, and to see how the structure and the materials that we use are going to help build our towers or our skyscrapers. So stay tuned to further lessons this week, but by all means, log on to Discovery Education and start working through the lessons. We ended class today by talking about how we would change the design of a tent. Well, I'm going to ask you, how would you change the design of this tent to make it better? I would love to hear your answers tomorrow. And that is it for day number 54. I would like to thank my special guest, Eli, for stopping by to come say hi and help me with my intro today. Hopefully you guys are able to get a lot of your work done today and you can just relax this afternoon because, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great day to relax and it's a great day to have you in my class. So until the next time I see you, have a great, great night.